So what we're going to do is we're going to have a discussion about three individuals and the organizations that they represent who have a deep, deep passion and commitment on the success of our region from an economic development standpoint. These folks are involved every day in the marketing, branding, and recruitment of companies and job opportunities for our region. And this is the first time I understand that the three of you all been in a panel together. Is that correct? Yeah.
I believe so.
So it's really good that we're going to learn a little bit about each of their organizations and more importantly, how they work together and can work together even more in the spirit of Judge Cortez's collaboration and partnership speech and what he talked about. That's what we're here to do. But more importantly, we also want to open up the floor for questions to see if you all have a question to ask any one of these individuals too. So we'll stop about halfway and do that as well. So how we'd like to start, Daniel, Mario, Adam, is tell us about your organization, your mission statement or your mission, your role in the company, and specifically what you do. And we'll just kind of go down the line and do that first.
So I'm going to have to first start. Brian sits on my board, and I know every time he shows up to the meeting, I have to be ready because he's always going to throw something at me. So the one time I actually prepare notes, and I'm trying to focus on points, and I highlight stuff, and now I'm going to be completely off.
Oh, you're going to be great.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Daniel Silva. I'm the President and CEO of the Rio Grande Valley Partnership. The Rio Grande Valley Partnership has been in the region for 80 years. Our mission statement revolves around, you see, that's why I need my notes. Our mission statement revolves around advocacy for the region. We advocate for the community. We try to incentivize economic development through advocacy on policies that help the region grow. And really, we bring the entire region together, create opportunities for businesses to foster, and there's a lot of things that the partnership has been behind that have helped the region get to where they are today.
Now, you represent a legacy organization, been around for many, many years. So what year are we in now? How many years old is the RGV Partnership?
So this is our 81st year.
Yeah, 81 years.
And so a lot of the things that we focus on, remember, we talk about economic development, we talk about workforce development, transportation and infrastructure. Really, I-69 was something that we knew that the Valley needed access to. We needed to get behind transportation, because when an economic development entity is trying to recruit a company to their region, question number one is access to an interstate. And so, broadband connectivity, workforce development, education, and our ports of entry are entities and groups that we get behind because we understand that they are the reason why the region will continue to grow.
Well, what also is important is the legislation session just started, and the partnership has taken an active role every 2 years of bringing those legislators down here and getting to see our region. Tell us a bit about that and what that looks like.
So that's the policy advocacy that I had in my notes that I didn't bring up. Thank you. The policy advocacy is important for the region because there's a lot of things that collectively, we're all up here together promoting an entire region. Collectively, this area has need. By us being able to talk to our legislators, by us being able to be the voice, we have a motto, one region, one voice, by us being able to speak on behalf of all of our members and the entire region, we're able to talk to our state legislators and our federal legislators, going to Austin, going to DC, and making sure that collectively, so we're going to be in Austin next week, 18th through the 20th. We're taking a large delegation. A lot of y'all are going to be there. Thank you for that. Last session, we took 260 people, and that's huge. When we canvass the Capitol, when we're all wearing our yellow color and we're all talking about the needs for the Valley, it makes a huge impact.
And you bring them down here, and they get on a bus, and they tour this region, several of those legislators.
About 3 weeks ago, we had 70 people from 70 legislators and staff members come down to the region. We toured them, Hidalgo and Starr County, for a 4-day tour. And really the focus of that was, and anybody who wanted to come, we could have had all 181 offices come down. Our purpose was to try to expose them to the region. They're just starting the session. We want for them to have an understanding of who they are creating policy for, who they are voting on policy for. We had 35 freshman House members this year. We want to try to get as many of them down to this region so that way they can see, touch, feel. When they say border wall, they get scared. But when they get up to the border wall and they see, true story, some of them asked, do we need our passport because we're going to the border wall? And so when they get on the other side, they're like, what country am I in? You're in the United States. This is Texas. So we give them that experience.
Good. All right, Adam, you're going to go next. So tell us about who your organization is, what your organization does, who you are, and what you do.
Thanks for the invitation. My name is Adam Gonzalez. I'm CEO for COSTEP, which stands for the Council for South Texas Economic Progress. The organization that's been around, we're a 501c3 public charity right now. It's been around since 1972. It started as a regional economic development organization, but quickly transitioned more into the workforce development space. We did that till about 2018. And then in 2018, our board of directors, as visionaries as they are, they asked us to transition into a regional economic development organization, which covers 7 counties on the U.S. side, from Laredo to Brownsville, and we leverage the 10 municipios on the Tamaulipas side, from Nuevo Laredo to Matamoros. Our main focus when we looked at this and studied where we were going to play, what space we were going to be working in, was visiting with the EDOs and stakeholders of the region and realized, what were the white spaces, what were the gaps that were missing there, and really started focusing on foreign direct investment. And the way our program works is that we really market, we don't market in the region that much. What we do is outside marketing, and even outside the state, nationally and internationally, primarily to decision makers like, site selectors, and also company owners that are looking to expand or relocate their products. Very focused on the manufacturing arena. We don't deal in the retail whatsoever. We feel that, we need to bring in more primary dollars, as the commissioner and the judge, spoke about with regards to, attracting new industry. The tier 1 would be a huge leap and a huge accomplishment, but that doesn't happen very often. So we are more focused on the tier 2, tier 3, even tier 4 parts manufacturers or component. And so we are out there marketing to companies that are looking to expand. We leverage all the EDOs, we leverage all the stakeholders here. We stand a non-political entity that we have here. I also have the privilege of leading a private foundation that focuses on workforce development and post-secondary education. And what we're doing is not only trying to meet the need of the jobs that are not being filled here in the region, as we saw the chart that the judge placed, but also trying to educate our community for the jobs of the future. Because one of the things that companies look for when they're looking at a region is of course the workforce pipeline. Of course, incentives that plays a big part of it and all that, and the property values and things like that. But in a nutshell, that's what we do, and that's what COSTEP stands for.
Thank you, Adam. Now, you have been in the media, and you're quite passionate about your initiative to develop a regional strategic plan for the coverage area that you just mentioned. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, what we have seen as we bring in, site selectors and companies down to the region, what we realize is that they like the region, they like everything we have, but we may not have the infrastructure. So we need to, as a region, focus on specific industries that we're going to try to attract. And first and foremost, find out what the gaps are that we have. As we well know, we have water issues, we have energy issues, and we have road issues as well. Heavyweight corridors and things like that are lacking. So the thing would be to, work together as a region to develop a regional strategic plan as to what we want to be 25, 50 years from today. Do we want to, be the next Laredo, which is a warehousing and logistics? Do we want to be, high tech? So we need to develop that as a region. Not one entity here standing up here or even in the room can say this is what we want to be. I think we need to come together, develop that strategy, and work together towards meeting that strategy. Each not-for-profit or for-profit entity has a play in a strategic plan like that, but we need to be promoting the same message and trying to attract the same types of businesses down to the region.
Thank you, Adam. Mario, you are actively working with Judge Cortez and the Prosperity Group and the formation recently, not very long ago, of RioPlex. Tell us about all of that, what the organization and or institution's mission is about, and your role in that.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, all of you, for being here. True, Judge Cortez started the Prosperity Task Force about maybe 4 years ago, a little bit over 4 years ago. And so we started talking with a lot of groups, and somewhere along the way, we realized that we needed CEOs. So we created the CEO group. And the CEO group is people that you can imagine, people like Joaquin Spammer, Jim Collins, Abraham Tanuz. Those are probably folks that you know. So they came together, and one thing that they said was, you know, we need this area to be better recognized. So as a result of those conversations, they decided to form a marketing area. So this area is called RioPlex. So RioPlex is from Roma, Texas, all the way to Bronzeville, and from Miguel Alemán all the way to Matamoros. So the idea here, after about a little bit over a year's worth of conversation, we came up to this realization that we needed to do this because we have all the great assets that he talked about. We have all these bridge crossings, railroad crossing, seaports, spaceports, and yet, you know, we still live in the situation that we live in today. So the reason for the Prosperity Task Force is a simple reason that we have very high poverty rates. And when you look at some of the industries that we have, it probably justifies why we are in that predicament. So here with RioPlex, the idea is to bring better paying industry. So that's going to be the mission, to have an industrial revolution, bring it to RioPlex so everybody can have better paying jobs.
Mario, Carol, we have 3 slides for this panel. Can you put up, there are 3 different maps that were on your PowerPoint. Is there someone who could actually run that? Or do I do that? Do I just control it from here? Okay, that's all right. I'm going to see, is it there right there? Oh, there was supposed to be 3. Okay, that's all right. Okay, that's okay. But I'll use this as a reference point. And Adam, I'll start with you. So each of you are focused in specific geographical territories. So I'll start with you, Adam. Yours is up there. Unfortunately, we didn't get the RioPlex and the RGV Partnership up there. But the coverage area that you focus on, say a little bit more about the coverage area focus that you're doing.
We call our region, the region that we've been working with, and this was coined back in 2008. Okay, even before COSTEP, started its regional effort. So it covers, the 7 counties, Webb, Zapata, Jim Hogg, Star, Hidalgo, Cameron, and Willacy on the U.S. side. And of course, the 10 municipios from Nuevo Laredo all the way to Matamoros. Now, our region, what I like to say about our region is that we, in our region, it exists 2 smaller regions, which we call the Rio Grande Valley region and the Laredo region, which one of them is made up of 4 counties and the other one of 3 counties. So when we go out and sell this to site selectors and companies, what we do is we show the airports, the number of airports, but we also tell them the number of destinations and things like that are happening here. The population size and the workforce size, the young workforce that we have here. The other key thing about bringing, promoting the region from our program is really boots on the ground. Getting those site selectors on planes, bringing them to the region, touring the region, introducing them to the stakeholders here, and as well as companies. When the company starts this project, for example, they don't want it to be known because they're still choosing between somewhere else in Texas or somewhere else throughout the nation. So, but we want them to hear from stakeholders. We want them to hear from the people that are building the buildings, to the people that are selling the land, to the EDOs that will potentially, or the cities that will potentially allow them to get some incentive money, and the state as well. So when we talk about Rio South Texas, it's inclusive of the Rio Grande Valley, the Laredo region, and of course the corresponding municipios on the Tamaulipas side.
And so, and Mario, if we took that map and it showed the RioPlex map, you'd see the states of Nuevo León and Tamaulipas on the southern side. So why is your focus has so much emphasis on Mexico as well as the U.S. side?
I don't know that there's so much emphasis on Mexico, but I think the location is what's important. I mean, we have the most strategic location anywhere along the map in Texas, but yet we are under this particular circumstances. So the issue becomes why? Why are we still not getting the jobs that we need? Nationwide, there's 9% of the population works in manufacturing. We only have less than 3%. Why? 42% of the people that graduate from our schools here have degrees in science and engineering. So why is that not reflected on the maps? Why? The reason is that people don't know where we are. And that's what the CEOs are telling us. We need to tell people where we are. And if we tell them where we are, and we tell them what we have, the judge talked about all the assets that we have. So why do we still have 27% poverty rate in Hidalgo County? It doesn't explain it. That's the reason.
Got it. Daniel, your focus is 4 counties.
Correct.
Yeah, talk about the advocacy that you're doing for the 4 counties and the marketing efforts that you're doing in terms of getting the word out about the 4 counties you cover.
So the 4 counties that we focus on are Sar, Willacy, Cameron, and Hidalgo. When the partnership was put together 80 years ago, it was to be a chamber of commerce for South Texas. It was the largest density of population, and as we focused on advocacy for the region, we knew that, I mentioned a little while ago about transportation, we knew that if we were going to be able to get any of the targeted industry that we're trying to go after, we needed interstate. So I-69 Central, I-69 East, I-2 that goes east and west. The region has 13 ports. We have a seaport. We have 5 airports. I mean, it's an area that we were, by designation, by design, tasked to try to advocate and increase prosperity of the region for. We looked at education. You know, we had 2 different education systems. When we had UT Pan Am and UT Brownsville, we knew that in order for us to be able to play with the larger metros, for us to be able to compete against the larger metros, we needed to be next to a research facility. We needed to have an education system that was going to be able to provide the research component that we're going to be able to then spend dollars off of that can then turn into economic development investment to the community. So the partnership focuses on advocacy for our members. We're a membership-based organization. Advocacy on, like I said, economic development, workforce development. I mean, for us to talk about all of the strengths that are coming out of, all of the success stories that are coming out of our education system, may it be 4-year institutions or community colleges. We have a lot of advancement that's happening. Alex mentioned, and the judge mentioned our medical school. That wouldn't have been something that would have looked to our region within the next probably 2 decades if it hadn't been that the university system came together and focused on investment in the Rio Grande Valley.
So Alex and the judge did a great job in talking about our regional advantages and the challenges that we deal with. So I'm going to bypass those 2 questions with you 3, and I'm going to open the floor up to see if anyone has any questions you'd like to ask of any of these individuals before I get to the second part of our questions. Anyone have a question that they would like to ask from the attendees, media? Anyone would like to ask a question? Yes, Carol.
I'll just start things off. Adam, you're talking about finding the gaps, right? Where's that white space? And that's a really, to me, that's an excellent question. Like, what are we missing? And how are you going about filling that question or finding the answers to that question? What are those missing pieces? Where is that white space? What is that?
Well, our perfect resource is really the site selectors that we bring in, because they deal with many companies throughout the U.S. or internationally that are looking to relocate or are looking to expand. And they tell us what it is that they're looking for. And it comes to bear that sometimes some of the things that they're looking for, the amount of energy, the amount of water that they're looking for that specific project is something that we cannot handle at this time. So as I mentioned earlier, if we go down the road of a strategic plan and an action plan, it would have to be an action plan. We would need to start with infrastructure. Maybe the first 5 or 10 years, it's all infrastructure projects and geared towards trying to attract the certain types of industries that we want to be here, so that the engineers and the medical students and everybody else that's in STEM-related fields would have jobs here in the region.
Good question. Thank you. I'm going to ask Jim Darling to stand up, because I know you've got a question. You always have a question. Can you stand up and ask your question of one of these gentlemen? Oh, you are standing. I'm sorry. Former Mayor Jim Darling of McAllen. No, actually, you're not former Jim Darling. You're just the former mayor.
Yeah, questions. One of the things we keep talking about, I think, is we assume there's a problem and there's a solution because we really haven't explored it. And I'll give you an example is water. I say we don't have enough water, but we have sewage treatment plants that can turn into industrial water. but nobody's going to do the retrofit expense until they got a prospect, right? So we need to be thinking about that. And I could tell you how it's possible in McAllen, the north plant, turns out zero water, sewer water into the system. It's all used for other purposes. And that's 50,000 gallons a day. And so I think when we talk about water, we look at the problem with Mexico and all the grand scope, but really from an industrial standpoint, recruitment standpoint, we have solutions. We just need to educate people. And I think that's one of the biggest things is every turnover in political bodies is a turnover in new planning and zoning people, new economic development people. And so we don't teach, or we don't use the experience in our future leaders. And hopefully we can do that. That's not a question, it's a comment.
That's okay, but I have a question to ask you. What are you currently involved in? What organization are you doing? A lot of people don't know what you're doing. Just briefly tell us what you're up to.
I'm the chairman of COSTEP, of the board. I work for the university as strategic alliance person, so I'm on the bridge boards in McAllen. I don't know, I'm on 15 boards, but at any rate, a lot of different water, economic development, and environmental.
So Mayor, what I'm getting is that you're retired.
Yeah.
I'm going to take, Carol just left, but I was going to take a stab.
She's over there. Thank you, Jim.
I'm manning the microphone.
I was going to take a stab at the question that you asked about the white space. And I think that, and the mayor made comment of it a little bit, I think it's important for us to understand, and I think it's one of the regions, one of our successes under the partnership in being a membership-based organization is that we rely on our members to be vocal. We rely on people who are involved in the community to come to us, to come to their elected officials, and to voice what their need is. We started the marketing campaign, One Region, One Voice, for the purpose of bringing everybody together with the same problem, so that way we can be a larger voice, a larger population. 1.4 million people getting behind an issue that we are all facing has a lot big of an impact when we go to DC. Has a lot big of an impact when we go to Austin, because they're able to see that it doesn't just affect one small community.
Another question. Anyone?
So we're talking about regional areas, right? And former mayor mentioned about City of McAllen and what they're doing individually, the City of McAllen, what that's done. I do a lot of schoolwork, and there's so many school districts, and there's so many municipalities in this region that comprise of our region. Do you find a challenge that these individual municipalities, individual entities, seldom have the same consensus that was mentioned earlier? And that's what gives us a lot of our challenge, to your point, Mr. Reyna.
Mario, you want to take that one first?
You know, I think the judge mentioned 40 some odd cities in the Rio Grande Valley. You know, obviously there's a bunch of cities right across the border also. So the good thing about RioPlex is that we're dealing with CEOs, okay? So they don't have to consult with a lot of people in their decisions. So that's a good thing. You know, so if we want to do obviously more consensus building, obviously we would have to go and talk to individuals, but the decisions being made by RioPlex are being done by the CEOs. So that decision process is a little bit better. And but I would imagine as we move along and start thinking about major opportunities, obviously there's going to be more conversations with the wherever it's going to, those projects might land, we'll have to have those conversations. But at this point, with what we're doing with RioPlex, it's not a significant issue because they're making their own decisions. What we experience, for example, with the Prosperity Task Force is exactly what you're talking about, because there's a lot of entities, and takes a lot of time, obviously, to reach any kind of consensus. So, yes, when you have people that are independently elected, they're going to take some stab at whatever process is going on.
You know, it's a great question, and we had a roundtable towards the latter part of 2024 where we invited in K-12, we invited in community college and some of the higher ed four-year institutions. And one of the biggest issues that they all see across the board is a disconnect between K-12 and industry. And so how are we being able to train individuals so that way we can place them in workplaces? How are we able to go after companies and say we have a qualified workforce if we don't know that we're training them correctly? So what we got out of that, and House Bill 8, I think, is helping push the community colleges to, a funding system to where they get reimbursed based on placement. So it's an outcomes-based funding method. And they all, which was news to me, and I was glad to see it, they all supported it, and they all said, we're doing a component of that already. It's just gonna strengthen what we do. But most importantly, making sure that we're all at the table, and by being able to collaborate and talk about what are our needs, what systems are coming up, or what programs are coming up at the 4-year and at the community college that can help address that, and having the EDC sit at the table to say, hey, these are who we're trying to attract, this is what they're saying we're missing.
Adam, did you want to respond?
Yeah, sure. So when we looked at this, we don't participate either from COSA or the foundation in the K-12 space. The reason being is that we saw that when we did our research, we saw that there's a lot of organizations that are already, working with that, and we felt, us getting into that would just be another organization in the K-12 space. So what we did is we looked at, what were the white spaces, and what we found again was FDI. When I talk about foreign direct investment, I'm not talking about just Europe, Asia, or somewhere else. We're talking anywhere within the continental North America, United States as well. So, and what we saw was that a lot of the efforts that were going on with the local entities were more geared towards the retail business. And as you saw in the map that the judge put up there, we definitely are very heavy on the medical field. We're very heavy on the government field with jobs that we have here. A lot of those on the medical are medium to high paying jobs. In the government, they're medium to high paying jobs. And then in the retail, we know that there are low minimum wage, pay structures that they have there. So we're focused more in the manufacturing side. We need to build a manufacturing base that we lost to the Mexican side. And earlier, one of the questions was, why do we leverage Mexico? Well, because of the experience that they have. They've had manufacturing operations for over 60 years. We only have 3%, as the judge mentioned, of manufacturing operations on our side, and they're very light. Even the binational companies that exist here that have operations in Mexico and have operations on the U.S. side, the U.S. side operation may employ anywhere between 20 or 300 employees from Laredo to here, the companies that we looked at. And on the Mexico side, they have in the 2,000, 3,000 employees. So the thing would be, and we're working with the municipalities on the Mexico side to try to attract and expand those operations on the U.S. side. And we've seen some, I hate to put it this way, but we've seen some benefits, of course, because of the pandemic, the nearshoring phenomenon that was going on, and also the new political systems both in Mexico and in the U.S. have expanded and exacerbated that to some of these Mexican investors that have corporations, empresas in Mexico, are looking at starting some sort of operation in manufacturing in the U.S. So there's already interest, and I think it's a great start. We can't rely on bringing in a tier 1 right away, but we could start building components, and we need to start focusing not on just parts for components, but actually the full components, so that other companies and other big tier 1, tier 2 corporations can see that we have the capabilities to manufacture a full component and eventually manufacture a full piece.
Adam, I have a final question to ask each of you, and it's a two-parter. But I'm going to start with you because you mentioned a regional strategic plan. Vision, 20 years from now, what does our region look like from your perspective, your viewpoint?
I would like to see a broader manufacturing base, specifically in high tech. Okay, I think we could definitely be a medical hub, a research medical hub here. I think our medical system is so robust. And again, nobody knows about that outside of ourselves, which is something we need to educate, internationally and nationally, that we have a great destination, we have great hospitals, we have a robust system of schools. Again, we have UT, we have A&M throughout the region. And then all the community colleges that we have great programs. So I think that's something that needs to be promoted, and hopefully we can decide as a region which direction we want to pivot. And it doesn't have to just be one, because the region that we serve is so broad. You might have concentric circles where the eastern part of our region may be focused on some industries, the mid-section of our region and others, and then, of course, the Laredo region and others. We don't all have to be, all medical or
hubs within the region. Hubs within the region, hubs within the region.
Right,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay. Mario, 20 years from now, what do we look like?
Well, 20 years from now, we'll have 2.5 million people in the Rio Grande Valley, okay? And what I'm hoping to see is that we currently have about 140,000 individuals that do not have a high school education. So I want to see that number obviously lower, a lot lower. 27% of the people 25 and over do not have a high school education. So the norm should be around 10 to 12. So we have obviously Region 1 working very hard to help us with this issue. What I would like to see is that when you saw those industrial sectors, there's 20 industrial sectors in this country. There's 2 sectors that I think we should do a lot for. Manufacturing, I think I said earlier, we have less than 3%, nation is 9%. If we can bring it up to 6%, in 20 years from now, that's going to be phenomenal. Another sector is professional, scientific, and technical. I said we're producing a lot of folks in the science and engineering. That sector has to go up. So RioPlex, whenever they're going to go out and do whatever we do to promote the region, those are 2 areas I think we will do a lot to bring company to this area.
Thank you, Mario. 20 years from now, what does our region look like, Daniel?
I think to kind of resonate with what my colleagues have said, in 2045, I think we expect to see, we have ambition to see a high-tech-based manufacturing sector. You know, bringing in companies that are going to be paying high dollars because it's a high skill set, and then to match that, having a very well-trained workforce. We have a young population, we can train them, so I definitely see us being positive in both of those sectors, but also a very robust multimodal transportation system. We really do need to focus on transportation in the region because one of the things that keep us from being able to attract some of these companies is how are we getting our employees to work. And if we don't have multimodal being, you know, train, plane, automobile, we have the plane, the automobile, but we need the train. We need there to be commuter, we need there to be bicycle capacity. We need there to be multiple ways for us to be able to get individuals to their workplace to help them increase their economic position.
Thank you.
One of the things I forgot to add, it really in a nutshell, you know, historically we've been known as a crossing point, you know, in the North American sector. I would like for it to be a destination for investment, a destination for living, and a destination for leisure. I mean, I have it all so that people come here to invest and live.
Yeah, good point. Final part, the second part of my final question is, 20 years from now, accomplishing this vision, how are you 3 going to work together, your 3 organizations work together in the spirit of what Alex and the judge said about partnership and collaboration? Your final thoughts and comments about the collaboration of the 3 institutions that you all represent.
So I'll go first. I think that we all serve a sector that complements each other. So the RGV partnership focusing on the 4 counties, but advocating outward is our objective, it's our priority. Making sure that we get the collective message of the region, we make people aware of who we are, what we have to offer, and making sure that we're addressing the needs of our community. I think that we will work well with RioPlex because they're looking at international, national targets that are bringing companies into this region. And working with CoStep, I think CoStep does a fantastic job of making companies who are interested in the area aware of all of our partners, taking them to all the EDCs, doing familiarization tours, doing opportunities for them to get to know what the regions have to offer. But I think that we all have a piece of the pie that we can work with each other. That's my view.
Mario?
Well, they're likable guys, you know, so I like Daniel, I like Adam. So we're always talking, so that's not going to be an issue at all. So, going forward, we're going to continue doing what we're doing, communicating with each other. You know, there's already companies coming by, and Adam is working with us. So I don't see that as an issue. I think what he's doing is fantastic for the Rio Grande Valley. What Adam is doing is fantastic for all of the area, all the way from Laredo to Bronzeville. So, you know, RioPlex is just going to be an added complement to everything that's going on. So if we continue doing what we're doing, I don't think we're going to have a problem.
Great. Adam?
Well, I definitely don't see us as competitors. I see ourselves as partners. The RGV partnership has been here for a long time. As a matter of fact, they were created by Lloyd Benson Sr. We were created by by Lloyd Benson Jr. So that the vision was there for the, for the valley and for the region that we serve. Advocacy, we can't do advocacy, we can't do lobbying, so I think we as a region need to support the partnership to head that up, to be in Austin, to be in DC, advocating for our region. With regards to RioPlex, I see their vision of creating that ambassador, the CEO ambassadors that are going to be out internationally, promoting and nationally promoting our region. When they bring those, that interest comes in, COSTA can do its part of its plan, which is, hosting the site selectors, hosting the companies here, and connecting them to the regional stakeholders. And by regional stakeholders, I mean EDOs, schools, other not-for-profits working together. One organization cannot do it. COSTA can't do it alone. It takes, a region, and it takes collaboration to make this successful.
Thank you so much. Gentlemen, I appreciate the time and the information and the insights that you've shared with this group. Please acknowledge them